Wait, would you have been against U.S. involvement in World War II, Taylor?
Oh, yeah.
Probably. It being consistent, like I probably would have been like, Europe has their own thing. They just had a giant war 20 years ago. We're going to get dragged into another one.
You wouldn't have liked sending the money to the Brits probably because we're sending so much money and the Soviets as well. The Soviets would have starved out and died if we hadn't sent them enormous amounts of stockpiles of not just food but like arms. It was a great video I saw the other day. If you're a gun guy, you'd like cream at this. It was fucking Russians about to go fight the Ukrainians, and they were in some old salt mine in Russia, and they cracked open cases of Thompson machine guns from World War II that we had sent them to fight the Nazis. And they're just like brand new in the case from the 30s manufacturing or 40s maybe. And it's like, blah, 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 blah. We will fight the Ukrainians with this. And I was like, holy shit, that's so cool. That's so cool.
Those guns are so sick. They're the coolest looking
gun expert, but none of us are really military experts. I wonder how important the quality of your rifle is in battle. Like I guess the reliability of it matters. But if Kyle, you've seen that trench warfare where the guy got like, I'm going to make it up, 9 kills going through the trenches.
Yes.
Any gun could have done that, right? AK-47, M4 wouldn't have made a difference. Not a bolt action. But
no, I liked his rig. So he had a suppressor. That's one of the reasons they weren't noticing him right away. He had a good optic, and he had he knew how to use that fucking gun. Yeah, you do. Like
I think he touched his
when that gun starts recoiling all of a sudden. I mean, there was one guy.
The optic. I might be wrong. I don't know.
There's so many videos. It's a war.
Yeah.
I saw
this is the guy who was through the trenches, and I think one of the guys he killed was a Russian blogger or vlogger. With a big beard.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. Okay, yeah. That's special forces going into a tunnel and like clearing it out at CQB. I don't know. But, look, I've never fought anybody with a fucking gun, but just operating lots of guns malfunction, and they malfunction when you're standing very still, holding them tightly. If you don't hold a gun tightly, then it can't operate quite the way it should. Okay, like a certain amount of gas is pushing a thing back against a spring that's then coming back forward with the correct amount, and everything's tuned very well. But if the gun's moving backwards when that happens, or if it's fully auto and jiggling, like they fail all the time. And there's names for all different failures. If you play Tarkov, you know what I'm talking about. That's kind of close to reality. But
so those Thompson guns might hold them back from the 30s.
Oh, you wouldn't want to use a Thompson machine gun anyway for like dozens of reasons. That thing's heavy as fuck. It uses 45 ACP that's heavy as fuck. It uses stick mags that are like 20 or 30 rounds, or a big drum mag that takes you a year to load.
Were they good at the time in the 30s?
At what they were using them for, like fighting in the Pacific, I know they did really well with just chopping around in the jungle. It's close quarters weapon. It's not something you're like seeing the guy on the hilltop with and pecking at. It's when you bump into a guy like what he's talking about. Sure, it'd be good, but you don't want to take it to the battlefield, right? Like everything has to fit together. And you don't want to be the only guy out there with that 45 caliber World War II machine gun.
But don't you want your soldiers?
You want to yell "mag" and that guy throw you something that goes in your fucking gun. You know what I mean?
They're the best looking gun aesthetically of all time. They're so cool.
What is it? Say it so Zach can show us a picture.
The Tommy gun. Yeah. Tommy gun was just like I shot one at that gun event and it was awesome. It was way heavier than I thought it would be. Like after shooting it was the regular like wooden stock one. I don't know the length of the gun, but it was
about 2 feet.
Probably about that. It was that, but I was shooting it with a stick mag. And
thank you, Zach.
Shooting this, I was like, I feel so awesome. This is so cool. But then shooting the MP40, I was like, oh, like this makes so much more sense for actually running around and shooting. Like it still looks cool. It doesn't look as cool, but like the MP40 felt like a half empty can of soda compared to this thing.
When I see this gun, I don't even think war. I think Al Capone, Bonnie Clyde, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the Highwaymen.
Yeah. I watched that.
They clearly want to get them out of there. Aren't they about to invade a different region? Is it called Rafah or something?
It's in southern Gaza, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're going to push them all out. I think the way they're bombing that place, it's not the kind of bombing you do where people move back.
Yeah,
right?
it's like scorched earth.
So which companies are going to be coming in there to fix things? I know which companies. We all do. Like it'll be Israeli companies who come to rebuild that place because that is going to be Israeli territory. So they're not going to abandon it.
What Netanyahu said his goal was, and it's a joke. it's just as much of a joke as like Hamas's idea of like permanent peace. But Netanyahu has said that his goal is the destruction of Hamas first and foremost, which he says we're only like 6 weeks away. But eventually after that, he says they're going to establish basically a permanent military presence in Gaza, and they're going to install a puppet government, which for obvious reasons is just not, that's not going to work, obviously.
I think it's more likely Zelensky gets some of his land back than the people in Gaza do. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
that's why it's important to have like international pressure on Netanyahu to not like the only solution for like lasting peace would be a 2-state solution. It can't be a 1-state solution. That's just off the table. Like it has to be a 2-state.
I mean, we're the international pressure though, and all of our politicians are bitch made around Netanyahu.
Well, there is pressure from American politicians, including Biden, to pursue a 2-state solution. That is quote a permanent ceasefire. Would be like Palestinians have their own state, and it's like
now
really,
he knows what a permanent ceasefire is. Now he's defining it. See,
they're like even
well,
like
like what the people that say like Biden should force a permanent ceasefire. I don't know what that means. Like if Hamas are going to continue rocket fire into Israeli civilian like centers, because that's what they do. They fire thousands of rockets. You know, they have their Iron Dome and they have really good defenses, but they're constantly under rocket attack from Hamas. Or if they continue to plan October 7 attacks, how is that? That's not a permanent ceasefire.
Dude, the simplest solution is we do not belong in this eon-old ethnic conflict. Like what? Like there's nothing beneficial for American people, normal American people over there for us. It just embroils us in nonsense and costs us money.
Taylor just made me think of something. I was trying to figure out, I was even asking Kyle, hey, what is the political win on this? I think if we followed Taylor, and I guess mine, non-interventionist strategy, and you get a lot of negative press for a couple of weeks, then it would blow over like it was Afghanistan. No one's talking about Afghanistan as an election issue right now. Oh, was it a bad withdrawal? Yeah, it was. It was several years ago, and no one gives a fuck today.
Mm-hmm. But a lot of the biggest like donors to people like Trump, Biden, whoever, like they have like a vested interest. Like Sheldon Adelson, he like funded the whole Republican Party, and he's like that's one of like Israel's like his big issue, and so they're not going to go against their big funders.
Well, they're also like very pro-Zionism too. So like they're you know they don't really need poking and prodding. Like Biden himself is he's like a self-described like proud Zionist, which is kind of like an outdated term, but like, yeah, I mean, I feel like there's if you do nothing, if you don't put any pressure on Netanyahu, if you don't put any pressure on Israel, then for sure they're just going to they're going to try to just drive them out of that region together. And there's no.
I saw an Israeli rap video today. It was like a lady Israeli rapper. And and she's talking about like blowing up Palestinian houses. She's like, "I'll blow up your house for free." That was one of the rap lyrics. I'm sure it rhymes in her language. In Israeli. She was being real mean about it. Yeah, it was
all that propaganda is not helping them. Like them doing like fun selfies in Palestinians' homes and stuff. It's just it's like
I think it plays back home though.
It does, and right now, like the overwhelming majority of Israelis support the war effort in Gaza right now, but as far as the rest of the world,
the only winning move is not to play in issues like this. And this is there. It's losses around the board. Who knows if it's even possible to not play, given how embroiled our politicians are, you know, being funded by people who have vested interests in different countries. But like, it's not good for us as people. Us
as like stated, I think the best move is not to play because you're still going to lose. You're going to lose Sheldon Adelson, for example. But it is probably the best move.
For American people, it's the best move. For a politician trying to get elected, they're going to do the behest of whatever the pet project of their biggest donors are.
That's why you need managed democracy. You vote, but then an algorithm interprets your vote and the outcomes that you would like. And then it throws that away.
Now we're getting,
it does what it's told.
No, we can
Zuckerberg,
go back to Kings.
we trust.
No, let's go back to Kings.
I'm okay with Kings. Which family?
I think a slight majority of Americans still support aid to Israel right now. So it's not like so cut and dry. Obviously, there's a huge chunk, especially of like young Democratic voters that are obviously like very much against this war or against this against aid. So I don't know, like what Biden is currently doing. Where like now, I guess he's like leaking to the press that he's considering conditioning aid on certain things, which I think would be a step in the right direction. But I don't know if he can ever get back the
Yeah, they're not going to condition.
Young
needs
people
to change the topic.
Pissed, bro.
I don't know how to change the topic, how to get people talking about what you want. But if this was about Dobbs and this was about Trump's rape cases and other criminal cases, then that helps Biden. For this to be about Israel is not the win that he needs.
It's just like the Israel thing is the biggest thing happening in the world right now.
Trump
And
would
so
solve
like
it like
everything
that.
is going to. No, Trump, like
He will
that's
say he
the-
does. In day one, he'll fix it. He has a plan. I'm not telling you, but I'll fix it in one day.
like
I
don't
can't tell you my
understand
plan because then you wouldn't hire me.
like I don't think it's going to hurt Biden that much in the long run if he ends up running like the whole Israel thing, because it's like Trump is just as pro-Israel as Biden. Like probably more so if possible, like
matter.
or at least the same amount. Like so it doesn't play.
He personally
him.
beefs with Netanyahu. Like him and Netanyahu they're no longer best pals. But Trump was asked recently, "What would you do in Israel?" And he just simply said, "Well, they need to finish the job." Like he would not be pushing for humanitarian aid. He would just tell Netanyahu, like, "Gaza is yours. We're not going to even rhetorically oppose you for doing that."
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, got to get out of there.
Yeah, I think that the big problem is like, especially if they're in the Rust Belt, you have a lot of Arab voters and Muslim voters. We've got friends who are up there in Detroit who are Muslims, who are immigrants.
Minnesota too.
And they do not. I asked my buddy, I was like, "What does your dad think? What do your uncles think?" And I was like, "Oh, they don't like Biden. They hate him."
That was a good
like
fish.
Trump anymore.
There's a lot. If there's one thing that young left-leaning voters or potential voters are really good at doing, it's not distinguishing any difference between the parties. Like Republicans, I think, they get energized and they have some elections where they don't show up as much, but like they understand. I think, like, I actually kind of respect if you're a Republican who doesn't like Trump. You might even think he's like somewhat of a threat to democracy, but you're just not going to vote for Biden. We're talking about people that have like specific policies in mind and they don't want, what they look at when they say the Democrats, they just find it totally unacceptable. And with young people, something like the Israel stuff happens and there's so much fucking TikTok propaganda and so then this narrative gets constructed where it's like that, two sides of the same coin. Biden is basically no different from Trump, but when you look at the policies, they're just like you said, Taylor, totally different policies, like completely different policies. There are caverns and universes between the parties, but young people just get convinced like it's all the fucking man, bro. It's all the war machine and the
only thing they're seeing on their feed, and they see that people who say what they're saying are getting a lot of positive feedback on it, and so they want that too.
I hope he does something neat this time. He talked about buying Greenland last time. That obviously fell through. I didn't like that they mocked him for it because I would like to add Greenland to the.
I didn't mock him.
To the Union.
If we could buy any country, why not Greenland?
I'd like a vassal of some kind. I don't want to buy anything per se. I want to take something. I'd like to take something.
We already have tons of vassals. Look at Europe.
Dude, I think isn't Haiti kind of free for the taking right now?
I'd like it in writing. Frankly.
No, I don't want it. That's a fixer-upper, Woody. We don't want that. We do not want Haiti. No.
How much of Ukraine do you think, of like Western Ukraine, do you think Zelensky would give us if we say we'll cut off all funding? Otherwise, like how much could we? Like that's what I want to do with the money. How about this, Taylor? Would you be okay with the hundreds of millions if we got land in recompense, like each like at market value, like we were literally getting their land in Western Ukraine. That was ours. Win or lose.
What? And like it's a 51st state?
No, we don't. They'll pay taxes, but we're not helping them out with infrastructure and shit. This is going to be more of a Dominican Republic situation.
I don't think we need any of Ukraine.
They'll be in the Miss America pageant, winning. I mean, they're a shoe-in, right?
Okay,
those
they're
broads
good
are
at
hot.
that. They have a lot of hot blondes. That's fair.
Yeah.
There has to be a limit to your isolationism. There just has to be, right? Like, at what threshold would it require? Like, how? Like let's say Hitler 2.0 shows up, and it's like, if we don't do anything, we're talking global, one world order, whatever, Like,
well, I mean, like if we're being attacked, then yeah, we have to rebuff it. But if we are constantly intervening on the behalf of foreign nations and prioritizing their well-being seemingly over that of our own people, like, yeah, that's wrong. Like we have way too many issues on the home front to be dilly-dallying in Ukraine and Israel. And I think it's a net negative.
What issues are not getting done in the States that would be getting done if we weren't sending aid to Ukraine?
Well, it's hard to say because that money for Ukraine could be spent on any other thing. We had this discussion last time. Healthcare is a good example.
And the money I have is worth more.
What?
Yeah,
it's not like they went and got a dump truck full of money and sent it over there. They just made up some money. They printed some money, right? Like,
what did that cost?
What comes out of the defense budget?
What I'm saying is like,
yeah, we should have a drastically diminished defense budget.
Well, we agree there.
Don't touch my defense budget.
Yeah, no, we should drastically. I know you hate that, Kyle. I know you love American imperialism. And all that.
Point, Taylor.
When the aliens come and we're so ready that we become one of those sci-fi stories, you'll be thankful for our $1 trillion defense budget.
Yeah, Taylor doesn't watch enough sci-fi stories. We need defense. We need battle.
The Russians got the nukes in space now. They got the space nukes.
Space nukes.
Yeah.
I like enough is
All
enough of us constantly
work.
sticking our fingers in every corner of the world in a way that just drains resources from American taxpayers to the benefit of foreign nations or our own elected officials who are taking paybacks from those foreign officials or corporations. That like it's so bad for us that I just don't understand why there has to be like, oh, well, what's not getting done here that would be achieved if we had that extra money? Well, inflation would be lower. Like we wouldn't have gone through a lot of that nonsense. We also wouldn't have huge issues with our border. We could secure that. There are a litany of things. We could have better roads. We could have more robust school systems. We could have healthcare.
You're talking about things in a vacuum, though. You still need the political will to actually pass these bills.
True.
To send bills. So, like, even if we spend no money in Ukraine, I don't think we would have any better healthcare. I don't think
we would have spent less money, and that would be beneficial for us. Like hundreds of billions of dollars. Like it's not just free.
Well, it's not even 100 billion, and I mean, I think it's close to 90 billion right now in Ukraine. But there's more aid package that's being proposed.
Yeah, and so it'll be well over that soon. And so it's like it's not good for us, and it's not like, oh, this money is just going to be thrown in a fire pit if we don't give it to a foreign country. Like, no, we could just not print it. We could just not spend it.
I understand that
stuff. I feel like it's a great deal for us. I see Russia as a geopolitical adversary. I think that they are trying. Look, I also think that the whole thing's probably NATO's fault and our fault. We agreed with them years ago that we wouldn't put those bases and those missiles there, and we keep doing it. We keep pushing their shit. We had a meltdown with the Cuban Missile Crisis, and it was tit for tat there too, and we never talked about it. That is aside, though, because we are where we are. So I'm all for the Ukraine thing. I like giving them all the fancy missiles and stuff. I don't want, I'm sure there's going to be some spillage, as they say. Somebody's going to cash some checks they shouldn't. But that's how war and business and shit works. There's going to be
if we do get into a war, I think that seeing our weapons used in Ukraine will inform how we can make them better.
We're learning, like, this is so invaluable to us. I feel like to our intelligence apparatus, and to our military apparatus, and to our military industrial complex. We're learning in real time what it's like to fuel a modern 21st century war, so that our production systems can be ready if we need to fight the same war in a decade from now.
Run a war game.
If
Don't
this
spend
war,
$100 billion on,
you can't game for what the adversary is going to do. Remember how, like, every step of the way we were surprised by how this war turned out, how the manpad systems, the portable rocket systems were suddenly the thing, and it didn't seem like the tactics were working. They couldn't combine arms, and they couldn't get air superiority. You can't game for that. This is perfect. It's the real world, and no Americans have died that we know of. Maybe like three probably died.
Like Ukrainians.
Yeah, they were dressed like them too, and they spoke Ukrainian, and they had some cool goggles on if they died.
It's hard to sell to the American people like how it benefits them, because oftentimes if we send aid to a country like Ukraine, there's no like some fucking Amazon worker in Virginia. Their life is not different, you know. So
their life is worse.
So that
things are more expensive now.
I just don't know.
Maybe he gets Ukrainian mail order bride.
Ukraine is contributing to inflation. I don't know if that's like a big thing, but like, but if you, and I think we talked about this last time, but if you let someone like Vladimir Putin, if the message that the world sends him in this moment, it's like, if you want to take territory, you can take territory. He's not going to stop. And there's other forces at play as well. You have to worry about China's ambitions with Taiwan, because they're watching what's happening in Ukraine right now. And I guarantee you it's giving them pause I mean, maybe it's inevitable that there's going to be conflicts with Taiwan and China, but
it is. Yeah,
maybe
it'll happen eventually.
If I'm China, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, like, maybe I can still take it, but Jesus, we're going to look. First of all, it's going to be a PR disaster. Like you saw, it's going to be a PR fucking disaster. People are going to like not buy Chinese whatever product just because it says Chinese on it. But like the world will coalesce behind a cause, and that even if that cause is they don't like bullies. The world doesn't like bullies, and clearly we're not as focused on it Ukraine as we were initially. But I mean, that October 7th thing was pretty big, and for some reason it seemed like every news media outlet like really focused on it, like they were told to, or maybe they just had, you know,
well, I mean,
in the fire.
It was the most significant terrorist attack in the country's history. So I mean, it was gonna make the news for sure.
Yeah, I think the conspiracy theory that the news was told to report on October 7th is about as valid as the one that Kansas City won because they pulled the strings.
Well, the joke is that they don't have to be told because like all those corporations are Jewish owned.